Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to Umineko. So we're back to the great adventures of George and Shannon, and how much they love each other and are super nervous about it and stuff. And it was funny actually. I was looking up, I had said stuff. I'm like, well, their art looks really derpy, and some people were saying, well, it's kind of warranted in some situations, in that George is supposed to look like a nerd, and it's kind of funny because in the original one, he does indeed look kind of derpy and like a nerd, while in this, I'm surprised he's having trouble finding girls. Let's just say that. Same thing for Shannon, but the other way, though. Admittedly, Shannon is, in fact, like people said, on a deserted island, more or less, well, not deserted, but, she's on an island where the only other person her age is canon who she sees as a brother. So I guess to some extent that does actually make a lot of sense. Anyway, let's continue forward and see where their love saga goes, and maybe figure out how it connects to all that stuff we saw at the beginning. Right, so that, I didn't even read that line, did I? Is everyone related to the Urshimiya family? No. Eva adored George so much that he was the apple of her eye, but that didn't mean that she had pampered him. She had been strict with him and had grown him into a handsome man who wouldn't betray her expectations. That's how he was the apple of her eye.
あなたの相手は決して母さんたちの損得で決めてなんかいないわ。あなたにふさわしい、本当に素晴らしい女性に母さんが合わせてあげる。今はあなたの中にある青臭い若さがそれを疎むかもしれない。でも、これだけは母さんの言うことを聞きなさい。私があなたのためを思わなかったことが一度でもある？
それはないけど。
今はそれで結構よ。さあ行きましょう。お父様を待たせてるわよ。急いで屋敷に行きなさい。
じゃあごめんね、二人とも。また後で。
George bowed to the two of them, and after bowing once more to Shannon, he dashed off to the mansion.
じゃあおばさんも行くわね。楽しい話を打ち切っちゃってごめんね、ジェシカちゃん、シャノンちゃん。
いえいえ、気にしないでください。じゃあシャノン、私たちは行こうぜ。はい。
大丈夫よ。ジェシカちゃんだってきっとそのうち素敵な出会いがあるわよ。ジェシカちゃんにふさわしい素敵な方がね。
私と同程度ってことは成績の悪い男かな。なんだかうぜえぜ。
もちろんシャノンちゃんにもね。あなたにふさわしい素敵な男性がきっと現れるわよ。
As long as it's not George.
ありがとうございます。
Stay away from my son, you peasant. As Eva giggled and smiled, she approached Shannon's ear with a hand over her mouth, as though she was trying to tell her a secret.
使用人風情のあなたにぴったり
Oh
な
no,
相手
Eva.
が。
Oh no, Eva. You were almost like, I was just thinking, Eva, she's actually not that bad, and then she just does this. She just does that. I mean, seriously. Seriously. Eva, seriously, you were doing such a good job. I was actually starting to not hate you.
義務教育に行かせてもらった恩を忘れて。
Oh.
身の程を知りなさい。
そんなつもりは。私。
ジョージはお父様の血を引く孫の中では嫡男に当たるのよ。ひょっとしたら未来の後宮家を背負うことになるかもしれない人。その期待に応えるためにたくさんの勉強を重ねて素晴らしい大学に入り、素晴らしい成績を残しているわ。そんなジョージと無資格無教養な使用人風情が釣り合うと本気で大思い。
Oh, George. Oh man. She makes me so mad, seriously. Like, I hope George hears this, just punches her in the face, but I know that's not going to happen. But secretly, still, those malicious words all poured into Shannon's ear without spilling a drop. To Shannon, it was like cold water being poured in there.
私
This was all whispered in secret, so George probably didn't hear, and with the same smile as before. Jessica, who could only see Eva's expression, didn't think it was anything other than Eva telling Shannon some embarrassing story about love. When their secret conversation ended, Eva patted on Shannon's shoulders, as though she was urging her on.
大丈夫よ。あなたにぴったりのお相手がきっと見つかるから。ね。じゃあね、ジェシカちゃん。また後でね。
はい、また後で。秀吉おじさんとの話、その時聞かせてくださいね。
いやよ。
I don't want to hear your story. Eva laughed dryly and headed back to the entrance hall. Behind Jessica, who was cheerfully waving her hand, Shannon reflected very, very deeply on those words of Eva's about knowing her place. Oh, she makes me mad. I am seriously reflecting on how I got into a bit of a good mood. I had forgotten. I am furniture. Furniture isn't human. So, I am a being who must feel gratitude for even being treated like a human. And I am not permitted to wish for anything more. Even if people develop affection for furniture that they're used to using, that is an emotion on the human side, and the furniture side has no right to hope for that. They should just serve with simple honesty every day. But that feeling I felt when talking with George Sama and Jessica Sama, it's a forbidden drug for me. In other words, it may be an emotion I must not know.
シャノン、先ほどからぼんやりが過ぎます。体調でも悪いのですか？
いえ、失礼いたしました。
Natsui's words, too careless, were right on the mark. Even Shannon couldn't believe that she hadn't noticed Natsui until she called. This was a time when she normally had to concentrate on the cleaning. But she had just kept sighing and hadn't accomplished anything.
たとえお客様がおられなくても、常に気を張っていなくてはなりません。そんな様では、後宮家に仕える使用人として情けありませんよ。
はい、以後注意します。
もうじき、当主様と主人がお帰りになられます。書斎の清掃は済んでいますか？階段の清掃は済んでいますか？
申し訳ございません。まだです。
ええ、知っています。ですから、ルノンにやらせておきました。あなたがもたもたと廊下を清掃している時間で、彼女は書斎と階段の清掃を済ませてしまいましたよ。
それは、丁寧にお掃除をしていたから、時間がかかってしまって。
Shannon was simple and honest, so she would always carry out her tasks seriously and properly without any omissions. So she was always slow with her work. In contrast, Runan skillfully avoided important steps wherever she could. So she could complete her jobs with a result that looked similar to an outsider, but in a much shorter time. In other words, she was good at cutting corners. That's what I was about to say. Compared to that, maybe we should say Shannon, who talked back at Natsui when Natsui was in a bad mood, was bad at cutting corners. Of course, there was nothing that Natsui couldn't stand more than a servant talking back. Her forehead creased and she spoke sternly. And yet her slow, admonishing style of speech was even more terrifying, and finally made Shannon realize that she had said the wrong thing.
ならば、存分に丁寧な清掃を心
Scary
がけなさ
thunder
い。
in the background. Boom, boom.
シャノン、あなたにこのまま大広間の清掃も命じます。 当主様の大切な絵画が多数飾られ、後宮家への賓客をお招きすることもある大切な広間です。誇り一つ残さないよう、あなたが納得するまで丁寧に清掃なさい。もちろん今日中にです。それを終えて私に報告するまで、食事も休憩も許しません。わかりましたね？
はい。
結構。使用人はその言葉だけを口にするように。次の口答えには、より厳しい罰を与えますから、そのつもりで。よく胸に刻んでおきなさい。
はい、奥様。ご指導をありがとうございます。
どういたしまして。
As Natsui acted like her headache was troubling her, she headed off down the corridor. When she couldn't see her anymore, Shannon hung her head and sighed. She had been careless, so something like this had happened. Even though I'm bad at everything I do, I should be able to at least carry out the cleaning as well as an average person can, right? It's because I can't perform that well that I'm so shameful and crying. What could be more shameful than this? Not only have I been unable to perform a single bit of cleaning well, but just now when Natsui was scolding me, I was envisioning that person appearing and rescuing me. Oh man, it's George. If only George-sama were here. Would he casually step in and save me? I'm sure he would show up cheerfully, intentionally acting like he doesn't know what's going on. Nimbly change the subject, and make me forget I was ever even rebuked by Natsui. I kept envisioning him, suddenly appearing from the other side of the door, or the other end of the hallway. I envisioned the kind of person that would be an appropriate partner for him in a marriage meeting. And I envisioned how unfitting I am for him. Eva clearly told me that. It is repeated endlessly through my dreams.
姉さんは相変わらず不器用だね。奥様は今朝から虫の居所が悪い。黙ってうなずいていればいいものを、余計なことを言うから。
カノン君。
Cannon was suddenly there. His footsteps were quieter than a cat's, and he left no trace of his presence. She probably wouldn't have noticed him no matter how long he stood there. The expression on Cannon's face was hatred. He made that expression for Shannon, who didn't know how to do it herself. He just looks bored, honestly.
そしてルノンも地獄へ落ちろ。あいつは奥様がどこをチェックするか知ってて、そこしか掃除しない。さっきの掃除もそうだった。見ていたから知ってる。本当の意味での掃除なんかしてないんだよ。丁寧に掃除する姉さんに寄生してるだけの最低なやつだ。
そんな汚い言葉を使ってはダメよ。汚い言葉はカノン君の綺麗な魂まで怪我してしまう。だからせめて私の前ではそんな言葉遣いをしないでね。
Cannon faced away, acting sulkily. Or sulky, anyway. It was a dishonest reaction, very like Cannon, but I was a little happy. He was getting mad for my sake.
大広間の掃除は大変だよ。僕も手伝う。
ありがとう。でも、奥様に命じられたのは私だから大丈夫。カノン君にも自分のお仕事があるんでしょ？
汚らわしい仕事だよ。僕の魂なんてとっくに汚れてる。
Cannon then hung his head and bit his lower lip.
手伝ってくれるという言葉だけで私は十分。カノン君も自分の仕事に戻らないとあなたまで罰を受けることになっちゃう。そしたら私は悲しい。
Shannon knew Cannon's character well. Sometimes he didn't reflect on himself. If I don't refuse forcefully, he will help me even if it means neglecting his own job. Cannon was a little sad that his favor had been rejected. But he realized that, in the end, going too far would also cause her pain, and he gave a single small sigh.
わかったよ。姉さんも頑張って。
それに、私にも責任はあるから。
姉さんには責任なんて何もないよ。
あるの。だから、もう言って。
Cannon's coon face showed that he still hadn't completely accepted it, but without being any more persistent, he disappeared. Even though Cannon-kun had given me words of comfort when I was down. Even so, I was dejected again because it wasn't him. That itself was a sin. That went far beyond any dream the likes of me could be permitted to see. I don't know my place. Shannon, who had neglected breakfast, already felt her thinking grow weaker. But if she didn't finish cleaning the reception hall, she could not receive Natsui's permission to eat. That cruel Natsui had surely told the kitchen something to that effect. I have to respectfully receive Madam's punishment. That's right. My position in the world is furniture, and I had been intoxicated by a dream that is beyond me. Ooh, this is a new room. I finished cleaning the hallway and I went to the reception hall. Maybe my hunger made my nose more sensitive. I could sense a delicious aroma wafting from the kitchen, or wafting, what should have been far away, and my empty stomach was encouraged even more. Until I finished up here, I could not get any soup. I just had to prepare myself. These people make me mad. They seriously do. Natsui and Eva, Several portraits were hung in the reception hall. One of those portraits was thought to hold a special meaning amongst the servants. It was the portrait of the witch. That wasn't its true name, but everyone in the mansion called it that. The name of the woman with elegant blonde hair, drawn as the subject of that portrait, was Beatrice. It was whispered that she might be the family head, Kinzo's former mistress. And also, that she was the great witch who had given Kinzo the gold of legend. The witch Beatrice, master of the night on Rokinjima. She was gracious to those who respected her, but she would surely curse those that made light of her. It was in Shannon's character not to neglect rules and beliefs such as those. So she thought of the portrait of her other master as that person herself, and always treated it carefully, treasuring it. And telling the witch that only existed inside the portrait, the secrets of her heart had become part of her daily routine. She was furniture. Furniture doesn't complain. Cannot complain. So, she had no right to speak her mind about her difficult days. She had no right to open her mouth and say those words. So, she at least spoke her mind inside her heart. She spoke her mind inside her heart, using words she couldn't say aloud, and protested to the formless witch. Of course, the witch didn't answer. She didn't console, and she didn't laugh it off. Shannon could only interpret that silence as she liked, as though the witch was responding agreeably.
Pt.48 様、みすぼらしい私の話を聞いてください。
As Shannon wiped the dust from the witch's portrait, she spoke that inside her heart.
私は確かにエヴァ様の言う通り、無能で無教養な家具です。人じゃない。だから、恋をする資格などないかもしれません。でも、だったら、どうして恋を知ることのできる心など、お与えになったのでしょうか。
At that point, Shannon held back her tears for a time. The sound of the rain, which had started falling, along with the chill air in the reception hall, made her feel as though her shabbiness had increased another level.
本当の家具なら心なんかない。だから人を愛したりしなくて済むじゃないですか。だから苦しまない。私も同じ家具なのに、こんな苦しくて辛い思いをするなら、こんな心なんて。
Oh boy. Here
な
comes
る
the
ほ
magic.
ど。家具に心を与えたか。あれも時には愉快なことをする。
That was spooky. The witch that didn't answer or laugh answered and laughed. Was it her imagination? Was she hearing things? No, that's wrong. After all, the next words became a voice and I could hear them, not with my heart but with my ears.
人間は世界を構成する元素について紀元前の昔から探求を続けてきた。
I like how this is starting. Ooh, this is fun. I like this.
古
Okay.
代ギリシャ人たちは風、火、水、土の4つで世界の説明を試みたという。その後も数千年かけて人間たちはその4つに様々な元素を加え、5代、6代、7代、8代、12代と様々な解釈で世界を説明しようとしたが、唯一の真実である一なる元素を説明することはできなかった。しかし、星の導きによって現れた一人の男が、ついにこの世界を構成する一なる元素を説明した。何かわかるか？
Shannon fearfully turned around. Hi, Beatrice. How are you doing? Right there, she existed. Not as an illusion, in reality. The contrast made by the lightning made it clear that this was not just a daydream.
それは、あ
The witch of the portrait elegantly held a golden pipe to her mouth and giggled. She laughed at the ignorance which causes humankind's thoughts to stray far from the most simple answer.
その男は世界のすべてを愛で説明した。それこそが、一男は最小の数で世界の構成を説明しきったのだ。なんとも単純明快にして、豪快爽快愉快痛快。やがてその男の生まれた年は西暦紀元と呼ばれるようになったがな。
Shannon lost any words to speak. She thought that when first meeting an unknown guest, her first words should ask that person's name. But without saying anything, Shannon knew this person's name, so she refrained. No, surely as a person of this island, asking this person for her name would be the greatest disrespect. Because she was a master of this island, in addition to Kinzo.
ベアトリーチェ様。
いかにも、わらわがベアトリーチェである。
Oh boy, what did we learn about Beatrice? Alright. Did that change, or was it a tip? I don't notice anything, but I definitely heard that sound. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong area, I don't know.
千年を経ても人がわらわを見て最初に浮かべる表情は変わらんな。
The witch giggled at how Shannon's reaction didn't betray her expectations. Shannon realized that she had met with a being that mustn't be messed with, and she took a step backwards. That's where the wall and the portrait were, so even as she gazed at the witch, she supported the witch's portrait on her back.
お前の悩みは愛ゆえよ。それはすなわち世界の一なる元素、つまりこの世のすべて。それが満たされぬということは世界が満たされぬに同じこと。それは穴の開いた水筒に水を汲み続けるのに似ている。くめどもくめども満たされぬ永遠の心の砂漠。人間の基礎にして全てにして現在。わかるか？知識の実を口にしたアダムとイブが知ったのは愛だったのだ。それを知ったがゆえに人は楽園を追われ人足りえたのだ。すなわちそれは愛を知り苦しむからこそ人であること。心優しき娘よ、そなたは誇っていい。それを知った今、そなたはもはや家具にあらず。そなたは今こそ人間なのだ。我が名にかけてそれを認めようぞ。凡庸の身には理解もつらき話か。まあよいわ。許すがいい。久しぶりに人間と話すのでな。饒舌が過ぎたことを謝ろう。
So, I'm not 100% sure I understand that, but did she basically make Shannon not a servant, or or is she trying to, like, give her the rights of a regular person? Maybe she'll explain further, I guess. Without expecting a reply from Shannon, Beatrice laughed pleasantly for a while.
詫びと言ってはなんだが、わらわの力でそなたのその願望を叶えてやってもよいぞ。
Oh boy, this should be fun. The meaning of those words surprised Shannon, more than the witch's sudden appearance.
そなたを思い人と添い遂げさせてや
Ah,
ってもよい
okay, it's starting to make
と言
sense
っ
where that
て
date thing came from then.
本来ならばそれに見合うだけの対価を要求するところだがわらわは機嫌が良い。それにそなたはわらわへの礼を欠かさず今日までよく尽くした。それへの褒美としてやってもよい。
本当ですか？
Normally, Shannon would have been shocked by this guest who didn't seem possible, and wouldn't have been able to speak. However, almost as though she had been captured by the witch's trick, Shannon responded to the witch.
わらわの魔法にかかれば思い人と結ばれるように取り計らうなど造作もない。
Yes, that's true. Shannon, who almost said that without thinking, gave up on her last bit of common sense. After all, this is a witch. A sinister being. The witch Beatrice is clearly trying to slip in through the cracks in my heart and take me prisoner. That sort of temptation, what so many fairy tale picture books warned me about when I was young, is right in front of me now.
イフもまた敬いの一つよ。心地よくはあるがこれでは拉致が開かぬな。わらわは確かにそなたらが意味嫌う魔女像から離れはせぬ。だがわらわは敬う者には好意を返す。それは人間も同じではね。 そのように身構えられて好意を返せる人間もまたおらぬと思うがな。
失礼しました。そんなつもりは。
Shannon eventually realized that her hostility was rude to this guest. And she finally digested the words that had been spoken to her a short while ago. You were no longer furniture. Now you are human. As she reflected upon those words, Shannon felt as though the reason for all her worries was starting to become clear.
さっきの、褒美の話なんですか?
That actually seems like a decent spot to stop. I mean, not great, but decent enough. So stop there. Interesting. I have a feeling this is going to lead to whatever that dream is, and then, eventually later on lead to that mirror breaking. She obviously was very distressed around the time that mirror was breaking. So I'm wondering, maybe is the story going to go along that it starts off happy like that, but then it somehow goes sour? There's an idea. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time for more Umineko. Bye!